Okay, we'll jump right in, Michael. I just want to say, Michael. I'm so happy to be in conversation with you today. Truly, truly, truly.
Well, thank you. You just made my day. Woohoo! It was simple, but you did it.
You're in the seat of the interviewer all the time. This is natural for you to do this with other people in the guest chair. So I just love that we can reverse the roles today and I can put you on the spot, but in a good way. First of all, I want to say congratulations for the beautiful content that you're putting out there in the world. The love, the energy, the goodness, the happiness. It's just so good what you're doing, really, truly. And
Thank you.
and you have a lot of fans, you have a lot of followers, you have a lot of people who know they're going to get some good vibes from being, close to you, to your voice, and to, all the interviews and the shows that you put out there. But I just want to know about Michael behind all those interviews. So that's kind of where I want to start. You were
Okay.
born in Massachusetts.
Yes. Yes, I was.
And you
That
had
does go
an
back to the
interesting
beginning of this
childhood.
lifetime. I did. I did. It was the best way to describe it is my friends wouldn't visit my house because it was called the crazy house. And my parents were always fighting and screaming and fighting some more. I had what do we call it? Oriental medicine doctor recently do a checkup on me, and she said, "Stick out your tongue." And I went, and she goes, "Wow, that's unusual." She goes, "You have a crack, a fold in the middle of the tongue that goes the entire length, which suggests an exceptionally traumatic childhood."
Oh, wow.
And I'm
Okay.
like, well, I guess that makes sense. It wasn't a war zone or anything technically like that, but it was the perfect environment, as challenging as it was, because I was bullied in the house, and then I was bullied 10 times as much outside of the house. It was the imperfect environment to challenge me, and in many ways help take me to the end of the road of a young pushing and striving and fighting way of seeing the world. And I had to become a good fighter in my house, so to speak. I was a terrible fighter outside of my house. I was gifted with an inability to hurt anybody.
Mm.
So if somebody was going to beat on me, I would, cock my fist, pull back, and go limp.
Oh.
I couldn't actually hurt them. I'm very thankful for this now.
Yeah. Well, you were, and you still are a very sensitive human being and soul, like a lot of the teachers that you've been interviewing and people that you've been connecting with as an adult. You are sensitive and wise and an old soul, right? And born in a family that was just a little different and maybe didn't meet you exactly where you were there.
Well, it was a dun 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 for my highest good. I got injured 10 years of age. I was continuously getting injured as a child. In fact, I had a past life regression on it. Maybe we'll go there about why I had all these injuries as a kid, why I had all these injuries as an adult. And I broke my femur, I broke my knee, I broke my tibia at 10 years of age. And it was the first time that I was told, yeah, you've got arthritis, you may never be able to walk by the time you're 18, and this and that and the other thing. And that was just another gift to serve me on my path. That injury at 10, which required 6 knee operations, and I have a hole like where my ACL is and no lateral and medial meniscus. I did a 19-mile run a couple weeks ago, Anne, on
Wow.
mountains. It taught me we're not our bodies. We're not what anybody else tells us. And anything we believe, we're in charge. Now I would say at this point, it's a co-creation. And it does depend on what one of the guests called prahabdhma karma, the contract that we came in with, how far we can take it. But I lost limits at age 10. I
Mhm.
lost, in a sense, trust or faith in what I call white smock syndrome, the experts to tell me what I could and couldn't do. And
Wow.
it set me free.
Uh, Tell me about the past life. What was the past life connected to all those injuries?
So the past life regression, I did it with someone who's trained directly by Dolores Cannon, and what she came up with was well first there were past life stuff, um, and then there was contract stuff, and very Michael-esque in theory, if, as much as we believe, and you come out of a past life regression, myself going, did I make that up? Did I just say that stuff? Is it real? But apparently I'm in front of a council of elders, and I said, give me the works. You don't want to say this, Anne. And they're like, we're not sure you can handle that or that's right for you. And I'm like, no, I want the maximum growth possible this time. Give me the works.
Mm.
At the time of that past life regression, which was probably 5 or 6 years ago, I had been hospitalized or had broken bones or severe illness totaling 36 times. And it was just break after injury after freak injury after injury, and on, cracking my head open 3 times by the age of 2, and all of these things. I have had 2 near-death experiences, and then a literal heart cracking open with all the bones cracked front and behind and above my heart. Maybe we'll go there. It was all part of this contract.
Wow, give me the works. Like just give
Yes.
me the most acceleration, the deepening, as much as my soul can transform and ascend with my body kind of thing.
Yeah. And I like that you say with your body, because we are here incarnate. There are a lot of spiritual people who say, oh, I want to float. I want to become a breath area. Not that there's anything wrong with any of this,
Yeah.
but I don't want to be attached to my body. Why do I have to worry about that? But we're here incarnate for a reason, and our body is our greatest teacher.
Yes. And you said, we're not our bodies. And I think it's such a good distinction to make, because in the spiritual tradition, sometimes we can misunderstood that I'm not my body, I'm not my mind. But as soul, we express through the body and the mind. And
Bingo.
I believe that it's possible to fully find that complete freedom, but within the body of that soul, of that expanded like being that we are, but in the body. And that's the work. Just hearing you say that, like it would be like almost like saying, well, let's show us the boundaries, like the frontiers, like the boundaries of your body, and how much it can take and how much it can actually adapt and transmute, and the vibrations get higher and higher and higher within this matter, this dense matter.
Yeah, exactly. So it has been, I am, I may not look it. I'm 49. I just turned 49 last week. I'll be 50 next year.
You look much
And
younger than that.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And it is my hope and dream and goal to go kick some butt at age 50. I want to do some really cool stuff with my body, race and do all these things. I don't need to beat anybody else, but I want to show you people that you are not the limitations that have been given to you.
Mm.
And how we can look at things in a completely, yeah, I'm getting older. I remember being in the gym 10, 15 years ago. I'm recovering from NDE number 1. I've got titanium femur, titanium hip. And there's a guy who's like 31 who's talking about, well, he can't play basketball anymore because he's getting too old.
Mm.
And I'm like, WTF, what the? Are you kidding? But that's what we're taught in society.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
And so I want to play with that. Now, going back to the past life regression for fun, I was told 2 other key things. One, I was given an image of being like Moses up on a mount, speaking before millions of people. And I thought, well, that's too big, that's too ostentatious, that's my ego getting involved. That actually really upset me. But now I speak before hundreds of thousands. We're not at millions yet, Anne. We will be. But I'm
Yes.
speaking before hundreds of thousands of people like you up on a mount through the microphone on a daily basis. That has truly come true.
Yeah.
And the other was, I was told I'd be leader of leaders. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous too. And I have become a coach of some very high level people. And like next week alone, just a miracle of miracle, I was invited to the Nobel Laureates Peace Summit in Mexico.
Congratulations.
Thank you. A small gathering of world leaders.
Wow.
I don't pretend to know where I'm going. There was a beautiful line we had on a guest, a lion tracking guest a few weeks ago. And his tracker teacher had given him one of the most profound quotes I have ever heard. And I think You're probably living by this. I'm living by this. I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how to get there. One foot in front of the other, present, grounded, connected, as best as I can remember to be,
Moment.
humble.
Yeah.
Bono, if you want to kiss the sky, you better learn how to kneel on your knees now. Get down as far as I can and just let it unfold before me.
Yes. Moment to moment, one breath at a time, in the highs and in the lows, right? When it feels really dense and confusing and chaotic, I think that that's when the work is the most important, is saying, I am here in this moment and that's all I can do. To stay resourceful is breathe deeply and then take this next breath and then take
Yeah,
this next breath, right? Sometimes that's all we know that works for sure. And that's when I think that's when the real work happens, is
it
staying with
is.
that discomfort when things want to accelerate and want to push forward, but there's a bit of a resistance just from the old, right?
I call that the juice. And it's a theory I've been talking with a lot of people, coaching clients in particular lately. This idea of cherry picking. That if we believe there's a universe, a God, a spirit, a source, I joke and call it giant cheeseburger in the sky. I don't care the label. It's this love that is all of us, that is our existence. If we believe even fractionally in that, then in the moment we win the lottery, for instance, or we have a baby and we go, woohoo, life is good. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. But then in the reverse, all of a sudden we trip, we fall, we step in the mud, we have a car accident, we have a this, we have a that. We
Yeah.
go, God, where are you?
Yeah.
It's all God.
Yes. All of it. And the detaching from that outcome, but still feeling the fullness of the experience, I think helps us to not, for it to hurt less too when it becomes a little too intense, right? And like attaching to, oh my gosh, this is it, I've arrived. But then when it's not that, it feels like that you're failing at life. And so the detachment, even from the good, but not feeling fully. We want to feel fully, but detach from it.
When I had my first near-death experience, I'd been training for a cross-country skate. I was sponsored by Rollerblade to do a world record 4,000-mile, 40-day skate across the country. And I had done something similar to it on the bicycle a couple years before. I was feeling somewhat prepared for it. It was about a month in advance, and I had been skating, and I had stopped in a creek and was meditating and praying for safety and guidance.
Mm.
And I got out of the creek, laced up my skates, and I'd been listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer's Inspiration. He was talking about everything in life happens for a reason. Push off around a bend, and a father had managed to get his baby out onto the bike path. He was visiting town, didn't know it was a bike path. He was teaching baby how to walk, and stepped out in front of me. And even though I was going slow, all I could do was throw myself up and back to avoid the baby. And on impact, I exploded a whole bunch of stuff in my body.
Oh my goodness.
It was a profound moment. It was an instant change. There was an ear to ear grin when I more or less came to. But there was a choice to make in that moment. I'm still broken. I don't care what you've gone through. I probably had a dance on the other side that I do not remember because I'm just like, life is good. But I had to take my left leg and for some reason pull it up over my right. And that's probably what saved my life, as there were pieces of bone sticking into my femoral artery.
Oh wow.
The pain was incredible. But instead of going, poor me, woe is me, I prayed for safety and guidance, here I am broken on the trail, I'm going, woohoo! There's a choice.
Mhm.
Something amazing is going to come out of this.
Yeah.
And that's the choice we can all make. I call life a roller coaster ride. We don't get to choose when it's the up, when it's the down. You enjoy and embrace the whole ride as best you can. There's still times when the profanity is going to be like, oh my God. But even that.
Yes, I to come to a place where we're able to, in that moment of chaos, confusion, pain, suffering, complete loss, to have a little grin, like to have that little like knowing, like, "Aw, you know, this is amazing." Like people would think we're crazy, but to get to that place where you can actually catch yourself and remember all the past times when it hurt, how amazing the expansion was. I mean, what a gift. What a gift that you are there in your life to know
Yeah.
that there's no clarity unless there's a chaos, unless there's goop, unless there's rearranging of information.
The expression is what? It takes pressure to make a diamond. It
Mhm.
takes resistance for anything to grow. A plant, you need to tamp down the soil, or the plant's going to grow up and tip over because
Mhm.
there was no resistance to grow its roots strong. So
Mm.
that discomfort that we don't want, I want to win a lottery, get a gold medal, do this, do that, and then kick back on the beach. You'll be bored out of your mind.
Yeah.
There's no growth. Now, you may say, no, I won't be bored out of my mind. I need that beach time. Well, that's because you've been exhausted by a life that was out of alignment. I get it. Take all the time you need, and then let's charge full force forward. It could be charging into your spirituality, charging into serving others, and everything is serving others.
Yes.
But once you recharge, you will want that resistance. You will want that challenge, that growth.
Yes. And let's go back. So you grew up in Massachusetts,
Yep.
and you had a traumatic childhood,
Mhm.
carried that in your body for a while. And then was it as a child that spirituality came into your life, or was it more as a teenager or an adult? Like when did the awareness of there's a greater intelligence here and I might be part of this?
There were a few punctuation marks. So first, it was interesting. I grew up as a good Jewish boy in Massachusetts who was sent to, what was it, Catholic nursery school, Hebrew school for kindergarten, Hebrew school while going to regular public school at the same time until I was 13. Then I went to what was it, a Unitarian junior high, a Catholic high school. I was getting this whole range of things. I went and raced bicycles in Europe, tried to make it to the Tour de France, got hit by a car through a blind turn. A French official, the crowd's going, vous allez, vous allez. The official waves me through the turn in the Alps. Ooh! A full-size Peugeot, an elderly woman, got her car out onto the course through an alley and hit me full on. And that was the end of my career at that time. And I thought, God is dead. There
Wow.
is no God. My dream is gone.
Mm.
I ended up, though, a few years later dating a Navajo girl who I dated for 6.5 years. And she introduced me to Navajo ceremonies in a hogan, a octagonal shaped building with no floor, dirt for the floor. And you sit on the dirt from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. The drums are going, there's coals. And it is the first time in my life I had gone to church, I had gone to temple, and it was the first time that I felt something greater than myself.
What was that feeling? How do you know that? Tell me the experience.
There's no, somewhere in the drums, I felt not alone,
Mm,
is the best way to describe it, in the heartbeat of the earth, so to speak.
that's beautiful.
And it kind of evolved. There was not this one, and I have done with shaman, gone through several ayahuasca ceremonies much later. There was no pyrotechnics, there was no anything. It was such just a profound feeling. So I went from there, and I ended up going, after it was a very difficult relationship. Years later, I ended up, when I was no longer dating this girl, I couldn't go to Navajo events. It was called Native American Church, and I was very sad. I was more sad about that than losing the relationship because I felt like I was losing my connection to God.
Yeah.
And I was starting to meditate. I was really starting to go down this rabbit hole. And I dated another girl who had been Buddhist, and she became born again Christian. And I would go to a Jewish temple on Friday night and pray, 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 pray. I would go to then church on Saturday night, and I liked that it was still on what I would consider the Shabbat. And so I would go there on Saturday nights. And I was starting to evolve. I was starting to really get into a practice more outside of the traditional spirituality or traditional religion, but I was developing a meditative practice on my own. Then in 2004, I did this bike ride across the country, 5,000 miles solo. And I was down on myself. I'd been reading Wayne Dyer and stuff, and I was down on myself during this trip. Why aren't you meditating daily? Why aren't you doing the work? Not realizing that life is the work.
Mhm.
Life is the meditation. I caught into Colorado halfway across the country, going west coast to east coast, completely broke. The funds hadn't appeared for me to continue. And I had to sell the last thing that was really important to me, other than my home and my dogs, of course. I had to sell my motorcycle, what I called my little Ferrari. I'm like, I'll sell anything but the little Ferrari. I had been called. I had woken up in a dream in the middle of the night and heard you're going to ride across the country to help others with learning disabilities. I was a racer again at that point, and I'm like, you want me to do what? And I sold all my racing gear, put myself out there. I sold the motorcycle that day for pennies on the dollar. All of a sudden, back on the road, anonymous contributor came through that sponsored the entire ride. I
Wow.
had many other miracles this day come through, and then I'm stuck on a highway, or I had to walk 56 miles in the middle of the night because the road was too rough to ride the bicycle. And there was even one double or triple trailer truck on eastern Colorado came through, blew me off the road, and it's raining, and I'm cold, and I'm freezing. And I prayed, and at some point the clouds parted, and it was a full moon, and the full moon came out.
Mm.
And I realized fully deep in my bones, I am not alone.
Mm.
I
Mm.
couldn't be alone even if I tried. And that was where my practice went to a whole new level because it fully went, and yes, even before the NDEs, it fully went from a belief, I believe there's something more, to a knowing. I'm surrounded, I'm protected. I'll forget it, and I forget it all the time, but there is a deep knowing that there's something greater.
So do you think that that was kind of a rewiring or a reframing inside yourself of that of a belief from your childhood that I am alone and it's not safe and there's no one else because of the violence or the bullying and the intensity that you had to protect yourself from? It's almost like going to the opposite before returning to the whole.
That's a great way to put it. I hadn't thought of it that way. I love it when an interviewer asks something that I hadn't thought of before. Thank you, Anne. Yes, yes. And it is certainly swinging on the other side of things.
Mhm.
Um,
Wow.
that, that's very profound. Yes.
Mhm. Wow, that's amazing, Michael. So when that happened, after that, would it kind of coincide to when you started doing the podcast, when you started Inspire Nation?
That was about a decade and a half, just over a decade later.
Later,
So
okay.
So the journey from there, we'll give the fast forward journey. Finish the ride, got to stomp around in Congress and meet people for a little bit, which was kind of cool. And I also said, "Ooh, that power." I'm not sure if that feels right for me at the time, and I was becoming very very intuitive. What feels good, what doesn't. I went from there to publish my first book, which was College Confidence with ADD.
Mhm.
Um, and as I'm writing that book, that's when I'm going to do the skate across the country. That's when I got hurt with my first NDE and yanked the book back from the publisher and said, we got to make a lot of changes in here. I need people to go on a heart-centered path. I don't want them beating their heads against the wall to fit a square peg in a round hole. If they're not supposed to be in school, they don't need to be in school. They have to
Mm.
figure out what's in their heart and go with that with everything they've got. So
Mhm.
that came out of that accident. And then I couldn't get walking well or running well until I stripped off my shoes and started connecting with the earth, something I heard in meditation, became a barefoot runner. Jessica came into my life, the most amazing woman. She appeared. I felt called to go meditate at a meditation center, and she appeared about a month later. I opened up my eyes and I'm like, oh, there she is. There's my future wife. She didn't agree with me initially. I don't know what she was thinking. She was going crazy, but because I was a long-haired boulder cyclist, I was a coach at that point. I was working with people, but
Mhm.
wasn't very traditional.
Mhm.
She had us write a book, became a bestseller. We ended up moving to Taos to an Earthship, an off-the-grid home, then moved to Maui. And then we wrote our second book, Barefoot Walking, and I was out of alignment at this point.
Mhm.
I was, ego had come in the back door and said, you're spiritual now, you get this stuff. You better work your tail off to teach other people.
Hmm.
What are you doing? Why aren't you striving, pushing, driving? Whoa.
Hmm.
And so a book tour gone bad, and at the end of it, I've fallen outside while returning a broken down RV to California. I fell on a hike outside Lake Tahoe and exploded my right leg. And just just before everything started to black out, I yelled to Jessica, "Not again!" Except on the other leg, and got the tunnel vision closing in on me.
Hmm.
Had a decision to make. Do I stay? Do I go? Beautiful if I stay, meaning going toward the tunnel. Terrible or exceptionally painful if I stay. I just told Jessica how much I loved her and how much I was wanting to have kids with her. So
Wow.
I chose the I will fight to stay here. And it was an incredibly profound experience, an hour of deliberate breathing, breathing in light, sending out love, breathing in light, sending out love. The EMTs finally get to the backcountry, no blood pressure, a couple helicopter rides to save my life, many other people's blood to save my life. Turns out it was an identical injury to the first one. Twin matching identical femurs, twin matching identical hips, had an inch leg length discrepancy after the first accident, no discrepancy after the second.
Wow,
It
you
was a,
can't make this up. Like, this is insane.
no, they're in
Wow.
my body.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the,
So
the
tell me
doc, the,
though, in the
yeah,
experience of the NDE, like, was there fear at all? Like, when you say you have to make a choice, so what
the
is there a
fear
feeling
was,
of fear, that
yes, but
you
not of
actually have
dying.
a choice or
Yeah, as best as I recall it, there may have even been some profanity, at least in myself, as I'm telling myself, Michael, effing breathe.
mm,
I
mhm,
did not want to go. I was attached
to
to my
stay,
life with Jessica.
right,
So the fear wasn't of death. The fear was of losing Jessica, of losing that which I had.
right. It's, it reminds me of that experience I had where, I was meditating and then went really, really deep and then had, the ceiling disappeared and I suddenly was in the universe, part of it, like, connected to everything, and it was the thought of leaving my husband who was asleep beside me, and everything came back in. Like, I was like, "No, I'm not ready to go." I felt like I was going. I probably wasn't, but there was a fear there of leaving, and I wasn't ready to leave. So that's why I'm wondering, like, yeah, so the attachment to this life in a way,
Yeah.
maybe not a fear, but the attachment to this life. Yeah.
Yeah, and I say, and maybe it is, but maybe it isn't, that it's a choice. You can say, "Oh, I'm spiritual. I know there's something else. I'm fine with letting go." But I am choosing maybe to fake myself into wanting to spend every moment of this lifetime with Jessica and to have kids. I just said, let's have kids, and now I'm about to go away. No, heck no. Not ready yet, Anne.
I know, it's interesting when you ask for what you want and you get the opportunity, then yeah, then it's the new phase, the new learning, the new acceleration.
And so it was a trifecta. That was so we had NDE number one. That was a big part of my spiritual journey. We are love. We come from love. We couldn't be anything other than love. And we are one. That's number one. Number two is a remembrance, like universe saying, I don't think you fully got this yet. And then I still was driving and striving once I could heal. And it was weeks laying on a couch where I literally didn't have enough blood in me to raise my head up off of the couch.
Mm.
But almost a year later, we're just about finished with a mindful running program, which is taking way too long to make, but was a beautiful, beautiful program. And I'm now, I'm getting healthy again. I'm able to walk. I don't think I could run yet, but I could ride my bike. And on the last day of recording, I'm going through my head as I'm riding my bike what we're going to record. And I say, be mindful, be present. I'm basically a turn away from the house on the side of Haleakala volcano on Maui, and my front wheel sweeps up into the air, and I watch it happen. And I was a pro cyclist, so my bike was my sanctuary. That was my safety zone. Nothing happens on the bike. And my front wheel's on the air, and then just slammed me down with a ferocity. My handlebars turned to where it dented in the bicycle from the handlebars. And I broke all the bones in front of my heart, all the bones behind my heart, all the bones above my heart.
Oh my gosh, Michael. You live
I
hard. You live fully.
lived. Now, yes, live fully, but now it's, my mantra now, Anne, kind, gentle, easy, good. I am listening, God, whatever we want to call it, but kind, may the lessons and the messages come to me kind, gentle, easy, good, which is why maybe we'll talk about in a bit. We now teach automatic writing, a way to tap in on a daily basis so you don't have to get the 2x4.
Mm.
I wasn't listening, and that was the final 2x4 that
So,
cracked me open.
right. So for the listeners, how was it that you were ignoring it so that they can kind of catch it?
Yeah.
And how did you start listening?
So you get, to me, universe gives you signs and symbols first very subtly. It could be a bird chirping. It could be going out on a hike and saying, should I turn around? And all of a sudden, and there's a puff of wind that hits you in the face. These things can be very subtle, yet powerful if you start looking for them.
And if you're not present, you'll miss them.
Absolutely.
Right.
If you're either not present or, going back to that word from earlier, you're attached. If you're holding on tightly to something, you have no ability to open your hands and allow something to come in. So the messages are always there. God, you've forsaken me. Why aren't I getting any messages? You are. But if you're holding on to the outcome that you believe in, that you desire, even if you think this is an outcome from God's source spirit, I'm supposed to be out there.
Soul aligned.
Yes.
I get it. Yeah.
But if we don't let go of that, then we can never hear. So the messages come in very subtly at first. And I do believe, like we had on one of our first guests 4 years ago, Robert Moss, it's an amazing shaman. And he was talking about how ask a question to the universe, step outside, and the first 3 people you hear or the first 3 animals that you see will tell you things. And you'll hear maybe somebody walking down the street going, no, no, no. And you're like, oh. So the signs tend to come from the natural world very subtly at first.
Right.
Then the volume's turned up a little bit more. Maybe some things don't go quite as planned. Then it's turned up a little bit more. Maybe things start to go really poorly. Before this book tour that shouldn't have been, the vehicle that we were going to use that was gifted to us, the transmission broke. I found another RV. I took it out. The electrical system went out on it right away. It had other problems. Then it got broken into. Then it tipped almost on its side. Then there's a giant snowstorm. Then I broke, or earlier in the book tour, I broke my foot on a barefoot walking tour. There are signs that are getting louder and louder and louder. And if you don't heed those signs, I believe it's a benevolent, kind, gentle, loving universe. But at some point, if you're lucky enough, meaning if you're not going to go through your entire life asleep, there will be a 2x4 to come to visit you.
But that's her way to love. It's the way that is love. It's divine love pushing through as us, through our bodies, and wanting to be seen. Yeah. I get that.
I needed, 36 some odd 2x4s in my life.
Did you say 76?
No, 36. Thank God, 36. Not 76.
Still, oh my gosh.
I needed 36 2x4s. Now I am like, whoa, I got my hands up to my ears. I am listening, Anne. I am listening. I am listening. I am listening. the woman who did the past life regression with me, it's interesting how we're going full circle here.
Mm-hmm.
She taught a course on tapping into the Akashic Masters and the Akashic Records,
Mm-hmm.
which is in spiritual terms is a like a Library of Congress
Yeah.
of our lives, of our spirit, of everything we've done, of everything we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry
What's the
Brilliant.
woman's name? So
Uh,
people can.
her name is oh my gosh, Cien.
That, oh, Sian.
Cien Chow, I believe it is. No,
Oh,
Chua, Sianchua, and she is from Perth, Australia, and she is amazing. She is amazing. She is amazing. And so Cien taught a course on tapping in to your Hall of Records and being able to hear from the Akashic Masters. Now, a real brief snippet on this is we had on the show Larry Brilliant, who is the man who's really personally responsible for the eradication of smallpox. He
mm,
saved like 1 billion children. And when he went over to India, he met with somebody who reads from the Akashic Records and told him he was going to do this. I don't even know if he was a doctor yet, and he thought this guy's totally insane. But it was in the records, and he ended up doing it, which is just crazy.
that's brilliant.
So she taught this course, and I heard things like Moses on the Mount, like the greatness that I'm going to do. And I thought, this stuff is bogus, this stuff is wrong, this stuff is my ego. And I was really mad, Anne, because my ego had come in the back door to prop me up and say how great I am, which is crazy, but we have a very hard time in our society, in our world, accepting the greatness that we all are,
Mm,
that every single one of us is. We are greater than we could ever imagine. We're infinity. We are love.
yeah, we're God. Not
Absolutely.
as a metaphor.
So, no, not as a metaphor. We are. To me, I call it the rose on the bush.
Mm-hmm.
So the bush is the whole. We are a part of the whole, but we are
Mm-hmm.
individual, beautiful, amazing representations, each unique, each with our own perfume,
Mm-hmm.
each with our own path, but we are the bush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that when we dim our light to help, even to help others or to do the work, when we have to dim it to do it, we're actually dimming the light of the world. Like we are the world. We carry the entire universe in us. When we don't take care of the universe is not well in
Yeah.
us. And it's so hard for the ego sometimes to really catch that, and the mind, the intellect, to say, so if I'm selfish, I actually am loving the world. But
Yes.
it is the way. It's like the impersonal life, by Joseph Benner.
If you take care of yourself, you raise up the vibration of all. If you make yourself small, you hurt everyone around you.
Yes, it's a responsibility. It's a responsibility that we have for the world to love ourselves with the same kind of passion you would have if God walked into the door. How would you hug her? Like, how would you just lean into her? Like, you would just,
Mhm.
that's how much you have to love what's inside, all of it, the good, the
Like you're
bad.
holding the most precious
Yes.
baby in the world, and
Yes.
you are that baby.
Yes. And you're the
You,
mother holding it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So from there, it took me a few years to want to try to tap back into this again because my ego thought it was totally bogus and BS, and it was actually violently upset. The whole concept of self-love was something that took me a very long time to get. And when I tapped back in again, I got the same profoundness, and I put it away again. Well, I was hopping mad, going, there's my ego trying to steal the ship or trying to steal the show again. But on Maui, after that last accident, and at that point, Jessica got very, very sick with mold toxicity poisoning. We ran out of funds, we ran out of health, we ran out of everything. And basically, everything's crashing and burning around us. But I said, I have to find another way. And I picked this back up, kind of. I take every technique and make the Michael version of anything, and worked on this automatic writing process to where each morning I was going into a state of meditation or prayer and writing to God, Source, Spirit, whatever we want to call it. I consider it like Neil Donald Walsh conversations with God. And I put right out there and I say, what do I need to know today?
Mm.
In essence, am I on track? Am I in alignment? Am I off path? And each morning I want to ask this so that I can get guidance very subtly, actually profoundly, on the pages before me, but without the need of any more 2x4s. And that is what we ended up having to go from Maui. And we went, from a gorgeous home up on the side of the volcano, overlooking both sides of the island. We could see the shore from both the north and south of the island and see the waves coming in, to living in Jessica's childhood bedroom in New Jersey, a little 8x10 bedroom, 2 twin mattresses. She has a good, very traditional Asian dad. Even though we're married, we slept in separate beds, mattresses at that, in her childhood bedroom. And before we went to Maui, I'm going, not New Jersey, anywhere but New Jersey. Nothing wrong with it, but I've been living on Maui. Please
Yeah.
don't make me go back.
Mm.
But it was there, back in this humble little room, doing the automatic writing each and every morning, going out, walking with, I'll put nature in quotes. I didn't have a registered car. I couldn't afford money to register a car. And so I could walk along a highway where there's trees on one side, highway on the other. But in between the cars passing, you'd hear the crickets. And I'd kind of speak with the trees and speak with the crickets and say, I'm listening, I'm listening, I'm listening.
You
And the
slowed
show
it
came
down.
out of that. Yes.
Wow.
4 years and, September 11th, 2015, to bring light to the world, is when we uploaded our shows. And then on the 14th of September, I believe that's, tomorrow, we're going to celebrate the anniversary tonight, 4 years ago tomorrow,
Yeah.
we flipped the switch live.
Congratulations. I mean,
Thank you.
it's been incredible. Did you think it would have the success that it has?
On one level, yes. I didn't know how long it would take, but I didn't feel it was mine. And so I
Right.
felt, if I'm doing something, I'm ready to cry here. I felt if I'm not doing something that's mine, how can it go wrong? It's a good Jewish tune, beshert, meant to be.
Yes.
And I just wanted to get out of the way. Now, the concern initially was, what is this show, Anne? You know,
Mhm.
and I was talking with CJ Liu, who's our once a week co-host, and we love her so dearly. She has her own show, Fired Up with CJ, out of Seattle. Who I spoke with earlier today. She's walking the Camino. It's so cool.
That's
But
awesome.
I was like, what kind of show? And she's like, well, you're into running. Maybe it should be a running show. You've done a bunch of healing. Maybe it should be a health show. You've got a mindfulness program. Maybe it's a mindfulness show. Nothing felt right.
Mm.
And I can only go by feel anymore. I cannot go. The head is an amazing tool. I don't want to say walk around without your head attached. That's like what happens to people at MIT and in Cambridge when they're trying to cross the streets,
Yeah.
as
But
they're
let it
so
be to
floating
the
in the
service
skies.
of the
Bingo.
heart. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jessica had come up with a name that I had put to the side, the Inspire Nation Show. And I'm like, well, that's kind of too big, too general, too this. But each time I said, well, maybe it's a health show, and then later on I can help people with spirituality. Maybe it's a mindfulness show, and then later on I can help people find their path and their direction and plug in. Maybe it's and then I'm like, wait a second. Why is it later
Right.
that you want to do what you feel called to do? Why do you feel you need to play it small and safe now to build your way? I'm like, you've skipped the ladder multiple times before. You went to Europe, you raced bicycles as a pro, you did these books, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, skip the ladder, go with the heart.
Yeah.
And that's when all the pieces came into play. That summer alone, we hadn't recorded or hadn't aired a single show yet. We had almost the entire cast and I think the producer from the movie What the Bleep Do We Know and from The Secret. And
Wow.
it just took off from there. We're 1,200 shows in.
Wow.
So
Congrats. That's incredible. That's incredible. So, what was your favorite guest?
there's no way to answer. Why don't I say you,
Besides
Anne?
me.
I don't know that I can answer that. I have a rolling window of love, Anne.
Yeah.
I love everybody who's on the show. I can see everybody as incredibly special. You know, Paul Selig and his guides,
Hmm.
absolutely incredible. Matt
Wow.
Kahn, absolutely incredible. This lion tracker a couple weeks ago, absolutely incredible. The gentleman who invited me to the Nobel Laureate Peace Summit, who's
Wow.
the head of, I won't even get his titles right, but basically the head of nuclear non-proliferation worldwide and is trying to bring peace to this planet. Jonathan Granoff, who we just had on the show, he's incredible. Just on and on it goes. I am just honored, and the interviews, and I'm thinking Anita Murjani is popping ahead. The interviews just keep getting more profound as I get more and more out of my way,
Mm.
and I see the person for who they truly are.
Yeah.
And so there's almost nobody who can come on the show. I'm not tempting you, universe. If there's somebody who doesn't belong on the show, that's great too. but but there's almost nobody who I can't make a heart-centered connection
Yeah. It's a
and
gift that
bring
you
out.
have.
Thank you. And it's a gift, so I don't want to take away from the gift. It is absolutely a gift that I have, but it's also absolutely, as you are doing now, going into prayer, going into the silence and listening. And that's what you're doing. I know you're doing that because you're able to hear me. And you're not hearing this, you're hearing this in the
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah. And that's how you make us feel as guests. You make us feel like we are seen, really, truly seen, heard. And you're creative with it too, because you tap into the magic that is present when you let go of all the shoulds
Yeah.
and the list of questions. You're prepared, like impeccably prepared, but at the same time you're allowing the magic to be there, which can only be heard through the shared heart, right? That's present in the conversation, and it can't show up if you're not listening.
It was about 6 months in that I was really torn apart, in that I was coming up with these list of questions and how much do I want to flow versus how much do I want to control things. And the head was trying to figure out how to drive this ship. And I can't pick out an exact time when it switched, but it was right around the 6 month time period where I said, all right, we are going to have our questions. And I literally make a list of 100 questions, and then I will color code all these different questions. And so it's very thorough, although very quick. The mind has adapted for this. So I'm able to read a book a day. It's just crazy.
Wow,
And I can get this all dialed. It's actually now a book in 2 hours because I'm given 3 hours total to
that's
prep for
impressive.
a show and be on the air. But that just comes both with practice and being in with flow. If this is what I'm supposed to do, universe will find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
But then I learned how to drop it.
Mm, mhm.
That's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
I'll be laughing. Jonathan's interview was yesterday. Jonathan Granoff, the Nobel Peace Laureates, and you start into it, and you almost hear this cosmic ha ha ha, where you know it's just going to go a direction completely other than where you intended. Fasten your seatbelt,
Yeah,
secure yourself in, and go for the ride.
let's go.
Yeah.
Has anyone made you cry?
Yeah. I think it's been coming up more and more.
Mhm,
Um, I can't speak to one particular guest. I mean, I can't say X, Y, or Z. This is the whole rolling window is interesting.
mhm,
The rolling window I have when I do an interview means that I am so present with you, Anne,
mhm.
that almost nothing goes into my long-term memory. I need to watch that interview again or take notes on the interview to recall what happens because the emotions will come up and I need to just be there with them.
Yeah.
But if I'm going, oh, wow, this is interesting, then I've already taken myself out of the present moment.
Mm. Yeah, and that's what happens when I coach or when I speak, or if I do a workshop, I teach for a weekend. Um, as soon as I start talking, it's not me talking. And so then people will say, can you repeat just that sentence there? And I'll be like, I don't know. I am not sure. I can repeat what I just said because yeah. So I get that. It's, so to be able to get there though is quite the journey, but to be there, to be able to trust that you're the vessel for that light to come through this personal vessel, but it's quite impersonal. Um, yeah, I that's amazing that I know that about you from having been on the receiving end of that beauty. So yeah, what a gift.
Thank you. So, trying to think, we had another recent amazing guest, James S. Gordon, on, who was talking about, which goes back again to the beginning of this interview, talking about family traumas and traumas that we all experience, large or small, as children. Also, I mean, it's PTSD, what can happen to kids, and also what happens to people in war zones and stuff, and how we can heal through that. I know that touched my soul because I'm going, wow, we have all, every one of us, experienced traumas. And the body doesn't say, well, that's not as big as this person's trauma. Although the ego will try to say the reverse. My trauma is worse than your trauma. It's
Yeah,
okay, ego. You can
I've
feel
heard
special there. But if we can heal those traumas, we're no longer walking around in a fight or flight response. And we're in more of a loving state toward everyone because it's gone from, as Einstein said, the most important question to ask, is it a friendly universe or a hostile one? And
Mhm,
when we're in fight or flight, it's a hostile one. But
mhm,
if we can drop that guard, if we can heal those wounds,
mhm.
the whole world, the heaven on earth, transforms before our eyes. Doesn't mean we're not still cooking the place. Doesn't mean that we don't have wars that we have to get stopped in an instant. Doesn't mean that shootings aren't taking place. But we can see the love that is and about and makes up all of us.
Wow. So, Michael, where do you have to be brave right now in your life?
Ooh, that's a brilliant question. I would say everywhere and nowhere. I don't know what I'm stepping forward. I'm going to Mexico this week. I have no idea what's going to come out of it. We're really challenged in doing a whole bunch of new stuff with the videos that hasn't come about yet the way we had, quote, hoped. And I have to let go of that. I need to hire more staff right now, even though it's a balance on uh, where does the money go? How do you spend it? How do you make sure that you're being secure as you grow? The entrepreneurial dilemma.
Yes.
And yet I feel called to step forward. And at the same time, my back got really sore this summer.
Oh, I'm sorry to
That,
hear that.
thank you. It was divine guidance that says you get to be out there more, in the flow, rather than as much time in the chair. And going, I have no idea what that looks like, Anne. But even that I get to do.
Mm.
And so the braveness is really stepping out of the comfort and the known and saying, I'm assuming there's an invisible bridge that will appear when I step off the cliff.
Yes. The wings will appear, but I gotta jump off first.
Absolutely. So I think that's the expression in Silicon Valley is jump off the cliff and grow your wings on the way down, or something. I'm butchering it, but something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I saw something earlier on your website
Mhm.
about you seeing a UFO. I know this is like kind of taking the conversation somewhere else, but I gotta
Wow.
ask,
All right. So let's
set this up for me.
well, there are a few pieces of this. First, when I was like 10 or 11, I'm in the car. We're driving. My family's driving from New England to New Jersey to visit family, and I saw these lights dancing around. That made it by the Statue of Liberty. That made it on the evening news. So there was
Okay,
like 1 million people in New York City that saw these lights go around. Who knows what it was?
right.
I had another experience with Jessica driving from Taos to Boulder, where we saw lights dancing around on the side. Those are the only, I don't know if those are the most profound experience, but now let's go as long as we're going there, and
Yeah, let's
between
go there.
you and me. So
It's just us.
I had 3 journeys with a shaman, and he's a Aboriginal shaman who was called by pink dolphins to the Brazilian rainforest, met with a tribe of people who didn't speak, they spoke telepathically, was learned how to use the medicine and brought that out and has guided people on journeys. And it was either my second or third journey. I think it was my third journey, the first half, because that journey went, whoo, it was you take a brew, you go on a journey. Basically, to me, it's like tuning in another radio station on the dial. You're not hallucinating, you're just tuned into something else. And you do that for first half a ceremony. Then he says, do you want to go deeper? And you can choose to take another brew, or you can choose to come back. And I he said, the second journey is going to be the shaman journey, because I've got some stuff to work on. You're going to be on your own. This stuff is been brewed, and this is the residue of what's been brewed and brewed and brewed and brewed and brewed. So this is like shaman 10 or 100 times strong. Do you want to take it? And my ego says, yeah, sure, let's go for it. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? But before that, I had asked to communicate and learned from some guides. And first I got kind of like a bee-like lady, a woman with wings who had kids by her side. And she said, let's see if I get the exact words right. Don't disrespect the sacred bond. The sacred bond is everything. And she meant the sacred bond with Jessica and myself. And be by her side always, and that's most important.
Wow.
And then I think there was like a guy who had a fire truck, and he had a couple kids with him, who was also talking about the sacred bond. And then I met somebody from up above who said, we have a spaceship. And he goes, everywhere you look up above, every single pinpoint in the sky, there is layer after layer after layer after layer of us protecting you and keeping you from harming yourselves, meaning humanity.
And did that
And
resonate? Did it feel true?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He said it's a thankless job. Nobody even knows we're here. Nobody even gives us thanks. But we're keeping you safe. We're keeping you from obliterating yourselves.
Do you think it's like the Lemurians or like Mount Shasta and then Shambhala City, like where they're in a different dimension and they didn't have to come down into the three-dimensional world and they're kind of holding the higher vibrations for us? Is that kind of what you mean, or?
Well, yeah. It's so when you go into ceremony, all of a sudden things start to appear before you. But it's not just made up by the mind, because it's the same appearances worldwide for thousands and thousands of years
Mhm.
that we get, unless every mind is able to conjure up exactly the same thing with no reference point, which would be kind of interesting. But we're tuning the dial from one dimension to another one of infinite dimensions, of infinite possibilities. That's where I got myself in trouble on that second half of that journey, is I ended up tuning in all stations at once. And
Yeah.
I did not have the pow to be able to
Capacity.
handle that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
you ask for the works, and
I
then
don't
your body
do
said, "Let's
this
let's
anymore.
gently increase our capacity here."
Yes, and that's what a shaman does.
Mhm.
Gently, gradually learning. Now, part of the shaman's journey is to be torn apart and rebuilt. And in a sense, I was being fractured into tiny little millions or billions or an infinite number of tiny little pieces, or mirror is what I saw.
Yeah.
Infinite number of little square pieces of mirror. But
Mm.
yeah, they're there. We could not be alone if we tried. It's impossible. And to think, just because I see, how much narrow band of the spectrum do I see? It doesn't make cell phones any less real. It doesn't mean my ability to talk with you on Skype any less real. So to think only what we can perceive on the visible spectrum or the audio spectrum is all that exists, that's craziness.
Yeah.
And so it's just a tuning to a new station. And I guess you could call it, I never thought before it, but it's a plant FM that I'm
Mhm.
tuning into, which is a mother spirit, a guiding spirit
Mhm.
that can help show us things and teach us things and take us to where there certainly are. Do I believe that there are others all around us? Absolutely. Do I believe that what I saw is true? Absolutely. Or it's metaphorical for something even greater than my mind can possibly
Right.
grasp.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the illustration for a pattern that is relevant at this time in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's why, like, I think, you know, it's not about dismissing any of it. It's just knowing it's a holographic universe almost, right? Like it's
Yeah.
all metaphors. Everything's a metaphor. The body's a metaphor for the chakra system, the chakra system metaphor for the soul. And so all these images, illustrations, projections, um, they appear as separate, but they're just another reverberation of the patterns of the energy. So
It's all energy.
dismissing it, it's more like, okay, how is your intellect constructing it, and where is it putting in a box or a label? Then that's when we separate ourselves from it. But to see it and to know, oh, this is the same. It's just an extension of what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing it differently.
It's why Jessica thinks I'm nuts when I say it, but I'm like, I believe in everything. And then she'll give me an example. I'm like, well, okay. But relatively speaking, who am I to say? Who am I to know? It's all here to teach us. We live in the Oshawa in the rainforest in Ecuador. They have the kids wake up each morning and they talk about their dreams. And based on what the kids experienced in their dreams is how the tribe is going to live that day.
Mm,
Because the dream world is the waking world is the dream world. It's all signs and symbols.
yeah.
It's all here to serve us. Going back full circle to how do we listen to the messages of the universe? It's there all around us in each and every moment.
Mhm. Wonderful. Wow. Beautiful. So, Michael, where can people find you, and what are you excited to share with the listeners right now? Like, what's happening right now that you really would like for them to know?
So there are a few key things we're doing. Most importantly, I wish everybody in the world could either use automatic writing or their own divine guidance process each and every morning to tap in and get words of wisdom so they're not going on autopilot. That
Or
has
on their
changed.
device?
You're not. Oh, were you talking to me, Anne? You're not kidding. Exactly. And so automaticwriting.com is where they can go to get that. And I'm exceptionally biased because our lives, I had been holding space in a meditation center for 6 months in a row each winter for 3 to 4 hours a day on Maui. And I was still lost. I had a taste of God, of source, of whatever you want to call it, but I wasn't getting functional how-tos, and I was still stepping off the cliffs. It's all love, but I had no direction.
Mhm.
That all changed when I started diving in on a daily basis. So that's automaticwriting.com. We've
Amazing.
now got a meditation program, which is kind of like, I don't know if you want to call it backdoor spirituality, or it's a simple way to help people get started. And that's imeditations.com, where you have simple 3 to 10 minute meditations that people can follow each day. In the middle of the day, you can use it to get grounded. To start your day, you can use it. And we have lots of free meditations as well that you can check it out. That's imeditations.com. And you can get the free meditations as well as inspirenationshow.com, which is where we have 1,200 plus shows. Anything you can think of, we probably have an interview on, though always from a spiritual perspective. It's even strange to say that word,
Yeah.
Anne, because there is no separation. There is no, well, that's spiritual, that's science. It's just all
Yeah.
God. It's all source. It's all love. And that's the perspective we take people on. And we have a mission. And that mission is to raise people's vibrations, elevate consciousness, and shift humanity to a new level. And
Mm.
I want to keep in touch with you. I know we're on the air. I want to keep in touch with you because we're starting a One Mind Earth program, which is going to be a project where we want to bring in everybody everywhere to meditate at the same time, millions and millions, if not a billion people at once online to see if we can shift consciousness, because
Amazing.
that's the mission that we're on.
Wow. Thank you for showing up the way you're showing up in the world, Michael. You're a gift to us, and I really appreciate you. And I'm excited to see where all these projects are going to take you, and to stay in touch and to stay connected. And thank you so much for being in conversation with me today.
It goes both ways, and I do almost none of these interviews. And when you asked, I basically flew out of my seat with a yes.
What?
Because you are all heart, you are completely connected and plugged in. You are the, if I get that right, the butterfly that is behind you. And you are source on the mic. So I had to say yes. I had to.
Well, we can recognize each other, right? We can see each other. It takes one to see one, and I think it goes both ways here. So very grateful for our connection.
So thank you so much. Let me know if there's ever anything I can do to help or get out the message. I love what you're doing. I'm so happy you're on the mic. You are amazing at it. You help bring out the best in your guest. So
thank you, Michael. It's coming from you. It means a lot. So thank you. I appreciate that. Much love to you.
It's the awkward silence that's not. It's the basking in a, we don't need any words here right now.
Exactly. Just nom, 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 nom.
Goes both ways.
Thank you, Michael.
Love you. Be well. Keep shining bright.